It always starts small, a faint hesitation, a strange hum, a vibration you swear wasn't there yesterday. Then one day, you press the gas, and your car hesitates. What felt like nothing has now turned into a $5,000 disaster waiting to happen. Your transmission is one of the most complicated and expensive systems in your vehicle. It quietly converts power, manages gears, and takes endless punishment every mile. But when it starts to fail, it rarely shouts. Instead, it whispers through subtle warnings that most people ignore until it's too late. Today, we're exposing 9 hidden signs your transmission is already in trouble. Ignore even one, and that quiet hum under your hood can become a death sentence for your gearbox. Pop the hood, pull your dipstick, and if that red-brown fluid looks like watered-down strawberry milk, you've got a crisis brewing. That frothy pink color means coolant has leaked into your transmission fluid through a crack inside the radiator's heat exchanger. The moment coolant and transmission fluid mix, chemistry takes over. Transmission clutches are hygroscopic. They soak up moisture like a sponge. Once that happens, the friction material swells, loses its bite, and every shift starts to slip. Inside, the torque converter acts like a blender, whipping coolant through the valve body, solenoids, and clutches. Pressure readings go haywire. Shifts delay, then bang, heat skyrockets. And heat, in a transmission, is the silent killer. For every 20 degrees Fahrenheit above 175 degrees, fluid life is cut in half. Toyota and Nissan owners know this nightmare well. They call it the pink milkshake of death. Catch it early, replace the radiator, flush both systems, and you might survive for a few $100s. Wait too long, and you're staring at a $6,000 rebuild. That one pink dipstick can decide whether your car keeps driving or gets towed to the junkyard. But what happens when the warning hides inside the torque converter itself? You're cruising at 45 miles per hour, light throttle, smooth road. Then it happens. A sudden buzz, like driving over a rumble strip that isn't there. A moment later, it's gone. That's your torque converter clutch, slipping and grabbing in rapid cycles. And it's one of the first mechanical shivers of transmission trouble. Here's what's happening. The converter's internal clutch is supposed to lock solidly once you reach cruising speed. When the friction material wears or the fluid loses its chemical balance, that lock becomes unstable. The clutch fights itself hundreds of times a second. The entire driveline trembles. Want to test it? Hold the speed where the vibration happens and lightly tap the brake. If it disappears instantly, you've confirmed a torque converter shudder. Many owners waste thousands chasing wheel balances and suspension repairs when all they needed was a proper fluid exchange. GM even issued a bulletin admitting that a full flush with the updated fluid could cure their notorious 8-speed shudder overnight. But ignore it, and those micro slips become macro damage. Each shudder overheats the converter, burns the clutch, and sends debris through the system. That gentle buzz today could be a total rebuild tomorrow. And if you thought that was subtle, the next warning glows right in your face. That little AT oil temp or transmission temp light isn't decoration. It's a cry for help. When it flashes, your transmission fluid has entered the danger zone. At 175 degrees, it's comfortable. At 220 degrees, it begins to varnish. At 240 degrees, seals start to harden. At 280 degrees, your transmission is cooking itself alive. Every degree beyond that accelerates oxidation and clutch failure. This light appears most often during towing, steep climbs, or stop-and-go traffic on hot days. The control module senses overheating and sometimes forces limp mode to protect itself. That's not weakness, it's self-defense. Ignore that light, and you're asking molten fluid to hold pressure. It won't, and when it fails, clutches glaze, pumps cavitate, and line pressure collapses. But if you pull over, cool it down, and service the fluid immediately, you can save thousands. That warning light is mercy. The next symptom? The car doesn't warn you, it simply takes over. You press the gas, but the car crawls. The engine revs, yet the transmission refuses to shift past third. That's limp mode, a safety net built into every modern automatic. When the transmission computer detects data that doesn't make sense, maybe a speed sensor mismatch, low fluid pressure, or a slipping clutch, it locks you into a single gear to prevent total failure. It's like your gearbox saying, "I'll get you home, but don't push me." This mode keeps the pump speed high enough to circulate fluid, but low enough to reduce stress. Some Toyotas block out higher gears entirely. It feels like your car just lost half its power, but in reality, It's protecting itself from self-destruction. Keep driving fast in limp mode, and that protection turns to punishment. Fluid overheats, seals burn, and a simple $200 sensor replacement becomes a multi-$1,000 rebuild. If you ever find yourself crawling home in one gear, don't ignore it. Get those transmission codes read immediately, because the next warning isn't electronic, it's liquid. A small red or pink puddle under your car might look harmless. It isn't. That slick stain could mean transmission fluid is leaking from the cooler lines or the radiator itself. In many cars, especially trucks and crossovers, the transmission fluid runs through a mini heat exchanger inside the radiator. When it cracks, fluid can leak out, or worse, mix with coolant. Mechanics have a grim nickname for this, SMOD, the strawberry milkshake of death. Once glycol enters your transmission, it attacks adhesives and friction linings, turning clutches to mush. Here's the chemistry. Transmission fluid relies on precise friction modifiers to control clutch engagement. Add coolant, and those modifiers are destroyed. The result? Slip, heat, destruction. The fix? Replace the radiator, flush both systems, and sometimes even rebuild the converter. Cost if caught early, under $2,000. Ignore it, and you'll be writing a $6,000 check. That pink puddle on your driveway isn't coolant. It's your transmission bleeding out. And if that doesn't scare you, wait until the car starts hesitating before shifting. You pull onto the highway, the engine screams, but the car takes forever to change gears. That's not sport mode. It's a delayed upshift, one of the clearest signs of hydraulic weakness. Inside, each gear change depends on a perfect handoff. One clutch releases while another grabs, controlled by fluid pressure within fractions of a second. When that pressure is weak because of low fluid, varnished valves, or air bubbles, the timing collapses. The engine revs rise, then finally bang into gear. Modern transmissions monitor all of this. When the commanded gear ratio doesn't match the actual ratio, you'll see codes like P0730, incorrect gear ratio. That's your computer screaming that hydraulics aren't holding. And once again, heat is the villain. Overheated fluid thins, loses its grip, and oxidizes. Every 20° Fahrenheit rise above normal cuts its half-life. Left unchecked, soft shifts turn into burnt clutches. But act quickly. Change the fluid, clean the valve body, and you might save it for the price of a long weekend tune-up. Still, when that delay turns into a sudden jolt, you've reached the next stage of failure. You ease off the brake, press the gas, and instead of a smooth roll, the car hesitates, then lunges forward. That jerky start isn't bad driving. It's bad hydraulics. At launch, the torque converter multiplies torque, and the pump builds pressure so the correct clutch can engage. If that pressure lags or spikes, you feel a slip and grab motion. Inside the valve body, tiny spools the width of pencils move in microscopic clearances. When varnish or debris gums them up, they stick, then snap free. That snap is the bump you feel. Fluid condition again plays the starring role. Burnt or contaminated oil changes the friction curve of clutch plates. Electronics can make it worse. A bad sensor or corroded connector can trick the control module into applying pressure too late. The good news? A fluid service and adaptation reset can often fix it. The bad news? Ignore it. And every lurch hammers the clutch faces, wearing them down faster than you think. A $300 flush today could save you $4,000 tomorrow. But sometimes, the warning doesn't come from movement. It comes from your dashboard. That orange light you see? It doesn't always mean your engine's in trouble. Sometimes it's your transmission quietly asking for attention. Modern vehicles use a transmission control module, TCM, that tracks every shift, pressure change, and torque converter lockup. If those numbers stop lining up, it sends a code, often P0741, torque converter performance, or P0730, incorrect gear ratio, and lights up your dash. Here's why that matters. Those codes appear before you can feel anything wrong. The computer notices that a clutch took too long to apply, or that line pressure didn't rise when it should have. It's catching a micro slip before it becomes a macro failure. Yet most drivers clear the code and keep driving. Bad idea. Once the friction material starts breaking down, debris clogs passages, pressure drops, and soon the slip becomes permanent. Fix it now. Change the fluid, repair the solenoid, update the software, and you're talking hundreds, not thousands, because once the slipping starts, no code can save it. You press the accelerator, The engine revs climb, but the car barely moves. That's not hesitation. That's a slip. The final warning before failure. Inside, hydraulic pressure is everything. The pump builds it, the valve body routes it, and clutches use it to clamp gears tight. When seals leak or fluid thins, pressure drops, and the clutches can't hold. They slide instead of grabbing. You'll often notice it more when the car's hot. Cold, thick fluid can mask the weakness, but once it warms up and thins, the slip returns. Sometimes it smells burnt. Sometimes you'll see dark fluid on the dipstick. Either way, you're in the danger zone. Every second of slip burns more clutch material, sending debris into every circuit. It's the automotive version of internal bleeding. Fix it early. Fluid, filter, maybe a valve body repair, and you could save it. Wait, and you'll need a full rebuild costing $3,000 to $7,000. That hesitation off the line isn't harmless. It's the sound of your transmission pleading for help. Now that you know these 9 red flags, you'll never look at a dipstick or a puddle the same way again. Transmission failure doesn't happen overnight. It builds quietly through chemistry, heat, and neglect. The clues are all there. The pink fluid, the light on the dash, the delayed shift, the vibration that comes and goes. Treat them early, and a few $100s in maintenance can save you from thousands in repairs. Ignore them, and your car's most complex system becomes its most expensive mistake. So the next time your car hesitates, shudders, or throws a warning light, remember, transmissions don't fail suddenly. They fail silently. And now, you know how to listen before it's too late. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed, because our next video breaks down 19 cheap car upgrades that can save you thousands instantly. You won't want to miss it.